Money Moves, where we put the focus on alternative assets, places investors are putting their money outside of the traditional stock and bond markets. We have a great hour for you lined up. We are going to be focusing on Argentina's 11-year war with hedge funds, the lessons learned, what they mean for distressed debt investors in Greece. Hedge fund manager Hans Humes from Greylock Capital Management will join us. He owns debt from both those countries. He will give us his perspective. Also, we're going to take you inside the world's largest diamond mine. We're going to show you firsthand the huge effort required to get the precious gems out of the earth and the sheer size of the mining equipment used to do it. In the meantime, though, take a look at stocks. They are higher across the board. In fact, the S&P 500 trading around a 2-month high. Signs of progress in U.S. budget talks contributing some optimism for investors. Explains in part at least the green on your screens. In the meantime, we start with a big private equity story. One of the will sell its stake in the country's largest gun maker after the tragedy in Connecticut. Our private equity reporter Christina Leschi is with me now. And Christina, I know Cerberus Capital Management is making a big decision, and in some ways it's a very personal link for the CEO.
That's right. Today we found out that Cerberus founder Steve Feinberg's father, Martin, actually lives in Newtown, but that isn't the main driver for their decision to go ahead and sell their stake in Freedom Group. Essentially what this comes down to is Cerberus does not want to be in the middle of a big policy debate on gun control, nor do they want to be.
Even if Cerberus seems to have a stronger stomach, its management seems to have a stronger stomach, its clients don't. CalPERS, CalSTRS have come out and said you need to look at these positions now.
Yeah, it is interesting because
other companies may face investor backlash over this arms issue.
Well, there are a couple of.
Thank you so much, our private equity reporter, Christina Leschi. Now, for more on this story, we are joined right now by Bill Lockyer on the phone. He is the California State Treasurer who just yesterday called on his state's pension funds, as you just heard Christina mention, to sell off any direct or indirect holdings in gun makers. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you with us. We know you suggested yesterday that the state's pension funds, the two largest, as we just referenced here in the U.S., divest these investments. Were you pleased and surprised with the speed with which Cerberus made this statement?
Well, I'm really glad about the
Cerberus's statement strong enough, and I'm just going to review. Christina gave it to us, but I'm quoting here Cerberus. This decision allows us to meet our obligations to investors whose interests are entrusted to protect without being drawn into the national debate on gun control. Is that a strong enough statement for you?
That's perfectly fine. What we want is
policemen, all of these professions affected by this tragedy. Can you push even harder in the statement to, let's say, align your ethical concerns with the kinds of investments? And I heard you say you're already doing it with tobacco. You're doing it in certain parts of the world where you don't want money. Is there even one step more to take? Bill Lockyer joining us there on the phone from California. Well, we are going to move now to the latest on an insider trading investigation we have been covering. In fact, there were 2 more convictions yesterday in the government's probe. With a little bit more on what this means for some of the higher profile cases, we bring in our own Sue Keenan. She is in the newsroom. So, Sue, what are the latest moves from the government, and how do these affect pending cases?
It gives the government a lot more.
Can get worse. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, Doug Burns says he's been in these very kind of.
Thank you very much. Sue Keenan joining us there from the newsroom with the very latest on these insider trading allegations. Well, when we come back, one of the most successful a hedge fund titan is taking on the Argentinian government. Argentina defaulted on its debt back in 2001, offered bondholders a take-it-or-leave-it deal, accepting 30 cents on the dollar. Elliott Management's Paul Singer, among others, wouldn't take. The judge ordered Argentina to deposit more than $1.3 billion to pay the holdouts. An appeals court later stayed that order while the government fights the ruling. It's a little bit complicated. Greylock Capital owns some Argentine debt as well. Its president and CIO Hans Humes with me now. So, Hans, I know you were in cable both times. What do you make, first of all, of Singer? Is he right? Is he wrong? Is he going to get any money? Tons of experience. I mean, you've been co-chairing on creditor committees. So, yes, at a certain point, I have to assume that you've seen all of this in one form or another before.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is...
Listed, and I mean, it has been downgraded, I think, in the financial community. To your point, on the same level, I saw one report putting it on par basically with Bangladesh or Kenya. I mean, it's really been ostracized.
Which...
Seasoned, distressed debt investor. So even though this is like an outlier, my guess is you've seen elements of this pretty much in all of your investments. What do you make of Venezuela right now? Are there opportunities there for you?
It's been a...
Bringing it back to this comparison between Argentina and Greece. Is Greece the next Argentina?
No.
It pays to be a specialist such as yourself and CIO at Greylock Capital. We are back in just 2 minutes. We're going to take you inside a diamond mine. Stay with us. Selling diamonds is a big business. So Bloomberg's reporter Olivia Stern actually went to one of the biggest mines in the world. She takes you inside now, shows you firsthand what it takes to process the precious stones. Back here on Money Moves, there is trouble in Toyland. Toys R Us faces mounting pressure to turn its sales around. We're going to tell you what is on their short list of challenges facing the PE-backed retailer in this critical holiday season. I'm Deirdre Bolton. Welcome back to Money Moves, where we turn our focus to alternative assets, places investors are putting their money outside of traditional stocks and bonds. In the meantime, we do want to bring more. House Speaker John Boehner says he will push a Plan B in the fiscal cliff talks if negotiations with the White House fail. Plan B would increase taxes on people who make more than $1 million a year, but would not include provision to raise the debt ceiling and other items. The White House calls the Speaker's plan unbalanced and incapable of passing in the Democratic-controlled Senate. Private equity firm Cerberus will sell its investment in the nation's largest gun maker, Freedom Group, after the tragic school shooting in Connecticut. One of the guns made by Freedom Group, the Bushmaster AR-15 rifle, was used in the massacre. California's treasurer said last night the state's public pension funds should divest investments in certain firearm manufacturers. Cerberus says its decision was not based in reaction to the treasurer's comments. Retail gas prices have fallen to the lowest level in a year. AAA says that gas prices have dropped for 26 straight days and are now at a national average of about $3.25 a gallon. Meanwhile, stockpiles of gas supplies are rising to their highest level since March. Analysts say gas demand remains weak due to the uncertain labor market and other factors as well. With a little bit now down to the New York Stock Exchange, Julie Hyman is there. She has the latest. Julie, what do you see? Second straight. Thank you very much, Julie Hyman, joining us there from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. So that's a look at stocks. If you look to treasuries, optimism that U.S. lawmakers will for more on commodities. Gary Kozlowski is just talking about prices at the pump being at lowest levels in about a month. Is there any connection?
Well, of course.
Are you watching for oil then?
Well, we saw it break into the 88.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Gary Kozlowski joining us there, senior commodities broker at United Futures Trading Company. When we come back, we're going to focus on investment opportunities in Latin America. Focus now on some opportunities in Latin America with a top investor in the region. Luis Carvalho is here. He is a managing partner at Tree Capital. It is a long-short equity hedge fund investing exclusively in Latin with the Mexican elections. So they have come and gone. But what has this done, if anything, to your portfolio and the decisions that you're making about investing there?
Yeah, we are really positive about Mexico.
Not alone in this call, but you're one of the more vocal people about it. When you speak about specific sectors that are at this point perhaps undervalued, especially from an international point of view, what are they?
Well, we like the banks in Mexico.
I made a chart that compares Mexican stocks to Brazilian stocks, and it may be interesting for people who don't follow LATAM as closely as you do, because to your point, Mexican stocks have clearly outperformed, and we usually think of Brazil as you're saying maybe not so much anymore.
Yeah, very interesting point. The last 2 years.
Brazil, because Brazil has some pretty big events coming up, so it's become a little bit more trendy to talk about. I mean, the Olympics, the World Cup, and we know that they're trying to build like crazy to be able to receive, well, visitors.
Yes, absolutely. Brazil needs to invest. So we believe that over the next...
When that decision was made, I was somewhat surprised because Brazil is growing like gangbusters, and it seemed like cutting the interest rate was more done almost in reaction to what's going on here. And that's a heavier-handed picture than it has been, at least in recent years, right?
Yeah, as you said, involved is nice, absolutely. But the market... And
so much. Good to see you. Luis Carvalho. Break. When we come back, a critical time for all retailers, Toys R Us included. Same-store sales, though, fell during last year's fourth quarter, crushing the company's hopes of raising cash in an IPO. With more on what's next, we bring in Christina Alessi. So, Christina, 2013, is this the year the PE back to...
Well, if they want any shot of going...
Grouchy New Yorkers who don't want to trip on things all over the place, but I mean, there are big stakes for this company, including people perhaps getting laid off and stores shutting down, so there's a lot at stake here.
That's right. It's a big...
You mentioned the private equity backers. What are the choices here?
There aren't very many.
Good story for the new year. Undoubtedly, we will be speaking about it. Christina Alessi, thank you very much. In the meantime, bringing us the very latest on Toys R Us. So when we come back, expanding your investment vocab with Bob's buzzword of the day, a term that speaks to the holidays. We're going to show you a wine index next. Welcome back to Money Moves. Time for our daily buzzword, one investment term to improve your alt vocabulary. Bob Rice from Tangent Capital Partners is here. And Bob, we are looking at LiveX, which
index and a wine exchange.
What components are in here?
So these
components, how many kinds of wine are in it?
Well, this is a problem. You need the Lafitte's and Latours and the really first growth Bordeaux. So that's really what the index is primarily.
At commodities trade, that is to say, people who are trading but not really expecting delivery.
Well,
old-fashioned way of doing business. To your point, a little bit lost. Alt assets we've talked about, right?
Right, and so this.
Much for joining us here on Money Moves. Mark Crumpton is here. Bottom Line is next. Starts in just 2 minutes. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m.